And my goal is to improve your health and I'll hopefully educate you on some of the new thoughts about medicine, especially in this growing science of where light can be used as a medicine. So I first ask every patient I see every day, and I have a family medicine practice here in Marietta, and I've been around for like 30 years. So, and I'm also teaching at the new UCR medical school, so this is part of the research that we're doing. So I ask every patient who I see 3 questions. How's your eating? How's your activity? How's your sleep? So I truly believe if we eat well, we move well, and we sleep well, we'll feel well. The challenge is that every person is a little bit different. For nutrition, we like a low carb, healthy fat, Mediterranean style diet. Someone called the ketogenic diet. We can go into more about that because that really helps your brain, especially in these days of neurodegenerative diseases. Number 1. Number 2 is exercise. We usually recommend an hour of cardio type exercise that you build up to every day. Real good one is indoor exercise bike. And then some form of postural training resistance, like I see some of the stuff you guys have here, exercise bands to get your shoulders good and posture, again, to prevent falls and strengthen your bones. But sleep is a little more nebulous. When I ask people about how their sleep is, a lot of people, sort of cavalierly say, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or, I don't need to sleep, sleep is, for lazy people. But I think it's important, and I was fortunate to go to Ireland this summer, and Irish, have a very nice way of saying things, and I like this quote especially: "A good laugh and a long sleep are the best cures." So with that in mind, we'll just talk a little bit about some sports folks, just to kind of give you an idea of this, and then we'll make it back to us, mere mortals. So when you look at who does well in sleep, it turns out the professional athletes are starting to get this. This is Andre Iguodala, who has won 2 of the last 3 championships with the Golden State Warriors. And he started on a sleep regimen to improve his sleep. And it turned out that his points per minute went up 29%, his free throws went up 8.9%, and he doubled his 3-point percentage. We all know LeBron James, if you watch any basketball, he actually gets 12 hours of sleep at night. Imagine 12 hours of sleep. But he does it every day so that he can be on point. As I mentioned, one of my thoughts, or one of my things I did was the team position for the San Diego Chargers. We had some minor success while I was there. I think there's 2 reasons we didn't win the Super Bowl. One was I didn't study enough, and number 2 was Tom Brady. The New England Patriots win a lot of championships. But Tom Brady is actually legendary and very regimented on his sleep. He demands that he go to sleep by 8:30 every night. So these are 3 people who show that despite you hear this one little phrase that rhymes, if you snooze, you lose. I think they kind of show that if you snooze, you win. So it's important for us to, I think, get good sleep. And the good things are it helps you. So what are the bad things? What are the problems if you don't sleep? The number one thing I think for us going forward is neurodegenerative disease, especially Alzheimer's. There's this new book that just came out last month, The End of Alzheimer's, and I can go into this some other time. But this is very adamant on getting good sleep. You have to understand how our brain works, that we have something called, in our body's lymphatic systems. We get rid of the waste products during the day for every organ except the brain. The brain only gets rid of its waste product, which is really amyloid, only when we sleep. So if you don't get good sleep early in life, you can't get rid of the amyloid. It builds up, and that's one of the challenges with Alzheimer's type disease. You get amyloid plaques. If you don't get good sleep, it changes your hormones, so you have the increased risk of diabetes, cardiac disease, and mental illnesses, especially anxiety and depression. And there's, again, a lot of chicken and the egg, where does depression cause poor sleep, or does the poor sleep cause depression? And those of us that were doctors, we know that if you stay up all night, it's very, very challenging to continue, especially years on end, getting poor sleep. And then if you're over, lack of sleep can cause obesity, but then your obesity can cause poor sleep by causing snoring and something called sleep apnea. And so there is a little bit of a chicken and the egg, like which one came first. It was sleep apnea causes obesity, then the obesity causes sleep apnea. And so we do tests, and you might have gone through these, but you could do a sleep study where you can go to a doctor, a sleep doctor, and get tested. Or nowadays, we have these sleep studies that can be done at home. You can actually wear a monitor to see how you're sleeping, and even they video to see how you're doing. And sort of as an aside, there's a story about one person who had shortness of breath at night, didn't know what it was. It turned out it wasn't insomnia. The doctor said, I have good news and bad news. The number one thing is that, it was problems with sleep, but it wasn't sleep apnea. So they said, I have good news and I got bad news. Good news is you don't have sleep apnea. Bad news is we found out that your cat Fluffy is sleeping on your face. So if you sleep with pets, that can affect you. Those of us with gray hair might remember the rock group that told what you did, how you described a very cold night as a free dog night. So imagine if you slept with these guys, that might keep you warm, but it may interfere with your sleep. And then when I asked the younger folks, middle age, how do you sleep? And they go, gosh, I sleep like a baby. That tells me one of two things. Either you don't have a baby, or you're not the one who has to get up with the baby. So, but on a little more serious note, it turns out there's over 100,000 auto crashes a year from people driving while sleeping, which is similar to driving while under the influence in terms of reaction time. And that's why they make the pilots of the airplane have to get a certain amount of sleep. If they don't, they cancel the flight. We obviously don't do that. A lot of us will try to just soldier on with trying to get through with poor sleep. But we're, especially with those in the audience here, I get very worried about is that it turns out the number 2 drug in terms of best-selling drug is for sleeping, and that fully a third of seniors are on some form of sleep aid. It could be over the counter, like a medicine that actually we use it for its side effect of drowsiness, like Dramamine or those sorts of things. You might want to be taking an over-the-counter supplement like melatonin, which unfortunately is not shown to be working. Or you could talk to someone like myself as a medical doctor and get put on a medicine to help you sleep. And we might use an anxiolytic like Xanax or Ativan, but we might also put you on what I call the Z drugs, like Ambien type medicines and those. And they all have their side effects, especially doubling the risk of a hip fracture. So the challenge we have is that people need to get good sleep, but the medicines we're using don't seem to work. Could there be another way to do this? And I like to quote Einstein during times like this, that the problems of today cannot be solved at the same level of thinking when we created it. You got to think at a different level. So let me tell you about a disease you've probably never heard of called kernicterus. This is a disease that happens in newborns, typically 2 to 3 days after they're born, where they can't get rid of the breakdown product of fetal hemoglobin. When they are born, they change from fetal hemoglobin to adult hemoglobin. That's the blood. They get rid of the byproduct, which is bilirubin. They can't get rid of it. Up until the 1950s, the only way to treat it was to do exchange blood transfusions. And imagine being a new mom and dad, having a perfectly born baby, and 3 days later, I'm sorry, your baby has irreversible brain damage. That sadly could have been prevented. So the problem was they didn't really have a way to do it, but then they noticed that this astute nurse, Nurse Jean Ward, who was also a sister, she had 2 interesting attributes. One is her kids never got kernicterus. And number 2, she was very adamant that they get sunlight every day. And it turns out that eventually the doctors came around to understanding that light is medicine, that there's certain frequencies of light. It turned out to be a certain part of blue light, that if they put it on the baby, it actually changed the fetal hemoglobin into a kind that they could urinate away, averting any brain damage. So from these, and you might, if any of you have seen babies, there's Billy lights all over the newborn nurseries now. And that's very regimented as to how intense they use the blue light, what the frequency, what the duration. And as you can see, they protect the eyes from blue light because unbalanced blue light is toxic to your eyes. So that made me think, and a lot of people like, why were the doctors so slow in picking this up? I mean, the nurse was great, was perfect, but she didn't understand sort of why she did it either. And it turns out that when you look at us doctors, and I teach the new medical school, Riverside, and the people that get into medical school, typically in college study biology or chemistry. There's three sciences, biology, chemistry, and physics. And very few of us actually take a lot on the physics of life. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some pertinent things on the physics of life. So number one, we love light. We like rainbows. And rainbows are balanced light. Sunshine outside, not blocked by glass or lenses, is a rainbow of colors. So we think of it as white light, but it's really a rainbow of colors with the blue matching the red, and everything's good. And in fact, this year, actually last year, I planted an acre of grapes. It turns out they're encouraging us to put in grapes because they're drought tolerant. So a little bit of water, CO2 that we breathe out, and the photons from the light literally photosynthesize, make all the plants. And so photosynthesis is something that can make amazing things. And I learned a lot about this. I didn't mention that she didn't mention that I'm on the SWAT team in Temecula, not the police department, but the small wine growers association. So we meet once a month. We walk into Campbell Street, Wilson Creek Winery. My first meeting, I was sitting in the back, and one guy goes, "Don't worry about all the signs. Win or lose, we always lose." I mean, they won. So everybody brings their wine and we taste. But I learned a lot about photosynthesis. So light is good, and we know photosynthesis is good, and it can make things. But on the other side, we know that we don't want to get too much sunlight. So please not go tell your dermatologist I told you to go get a sunburn. I'm not telling you to sunburns are bad. So you can overdo sun. But the problem we have is we've told people this for now over a generation. Don't go in the sun is dangerous. And my challenge is right now, I feel like I take care of zombies, like people who don't get any sun. Their vitamin D, 80% of people's vitamin D levels are super low. And so I truly believe that you shouldn't get too much sun, but I think you need a little bit of sun. And they're coming indoors saying that these lights are all safe and you should stay indoors. But riddle me this, Batman. Why is melanoma the most malignant and deadly form of skin cancer higher with those indoors than outdoors? Mm-hmm. And just in August, there's a higher risk of breast cancer the more artificial light you get than outdoors. So for a lot of things, you have to understand that I just think we need to respect the sun. We have to respect the indoor light. And I truly believe we need to Goldilocks. You remember that fable, Goldilocks, not too high. We need to Goldilocks our life. Depending on who you are, actually it's where your mother's lineage comes from. It's what's called maternal inheritance of the mitochondria. That we need to get the Goldilocks amount of sunlight. Not too much, but not too little, just right. So what we're proposing, and this is something if you have any problem sleeping, it seems to work quite well, is a two-step ritual. So what that means is you've got to get morning sunlight. Sunlight is when your body, through that photosynthesis, makes melatonin. So that hormone that we want at night, we will make it if we give us balanced sunlight in the morning for about 20 minutes. And then we need to protect our eyes from artificial light, which is blue light. So understand that the morning light, especially in this area, is amazing. Temecula, the name actually comes from that. So what I recommend, it's a very simple process, is get outside, ideally before 9 o'clock, face east, don't look at the sun, but towards that area. Relax. If you really want to challenge your inner hippie, go barefoot. But you just want to look at the light and let the light, because it's important for your eye to see that kind of light. There's different frequencies in the morning, noon, and at the end of the day. And so, but also, for this talk, I'm just talking about melatonin, but it increases your dopamine, so you won't be depressed if you get morning sunlight. And it also gives you actually beta endorphins. And those of you that remember John Denver, who said, sunshine will make you high. It actually does. And think of on a more sinister note. I mean, how did Saddam Hussein torture people? He made them sleep deprived and sunlight deprived. He put them down in black holes and stuff. And so the whole thing is that I think a lot of us are doing that to ourselves. So if you want to feel better, get a little bit of sunshine. And again, it's a certain amount, not too much, but a little bit. And so we know that our eye is a really, really good camera, but it actually turns out our eye is a very precise clock. So those of us who have traveled know about jet lag. If you go to another place, it's different. It's called a circadian mismatch. The sunlight is different. It takes a while to kind of get used to it. So our brain, through our eyes, needs light to set the clock. It needs to set the clock every day. So you need to get morning sunlight. So if you really want to get improved light, you want to get morning sunlight. But a good night's sleep actually starts in the morning if you can get sunlight. Now, let's say you're too busy, you can't go out, then crack the window. Either crack the window in your bedroom or crack the window in your car while you're driving. I had a hospice patient who was having a horrible time called sundowning, where you sleep during the day and you stay up at night, and the caretakers were exhausted, everyone's exhausted. She's on a bunch of meds and it wasn't working. And I just simply had them really open up the blinds in the morning, try to open up the window, if it wasn't too bad, try to make it as bright as we can during the day, and then dark at night and protect your eyes. And now she's off from that, sleeping better, and the caretaker can sleep better. So if you want a metaphor, the thought leader on this is a guy by the name of Dr. Jack Cruz, who's out in New Orleans. And he's a neurosurgeon who's real big into this. And he says, be like the Sphinx. The Sphinx is that statue that is in Egypt. And it actually faces these four paws in the ground. And he says, be like the Sphinx for 20 minutes every day. If you can get your bare feet on the ground, that amplifies the situation. So that's how you make melatonin. But this is how a lot of us live, is around digital electronics. We love our technology. The challenge is that the reason LED is energy efficient, you hear that all the time, is it only has one part of the spectrum. It only has blue light. And it doesn't have red light. That's why it's not hot. It doesn't have other colors. And while engineering-wise it's very good, biologically it's starting to take its toll. There's an increased risk of breast cancer, prostate cancer, diabetes, obesity, and insomnia. And in fact, we have something we sort of jokingly call iPad insomnia, those iPads that people watch, that unbalanced blue light suppresses your melatonin, so you can't get to sleep. I asked I mentioned this to one of the college kids, and she sort of said, that's okay. There's iPad insomnia. We have an app for that. We call it a nap. So, oh my God, that jokes. So you have to understand that the reason that these things keep us awake is that the blue coming off our phone or from our lights or from the TV or from the computer is the same intensity of blue as noonday sun. So when we look at that, we're telling our eyes and then ultimately our brain to wake up. That's why it's very tough for some people. If you watch TV at night and you try to go to sleep, it may take you a while to go to sleep. That too. So what can we do? Well, we can all just go camping, get your backpack and do that. That's not practical. But when you camp, there's a specific light. And if you're not glamping, I'm not talking about the big RV, I'm talking about real camping. You have a light during the day, and at night, most people will fall asleep within 3 hours of sunset. That's sort of how biologically we're made. So with the phones, there's new night shifting. So you can ask one of those smart millennials who's more than happy to teach us how to use our electronics, how to put on night shift. So you can shift your phone to put on this yellow part so that it protects your eyes and it dampens the blue light. So even the smartphone manufacturers understand that we need to do that. The challenge is we don't just look at our phone, we watch TV, we go on the computer, we read by live, we have our readers. So I encourage folks to, like these glasses here during the day, these actually have blue blocking. So these are technology glasses, they're blue blocking glasses, and you can get your friend and neighbor optometrist to use it and put them in, or you can just buy some if you don't need glasses. I just think if we use a welding, we would protect our eyes. Might we think about that with the computer? And then when the sun goes down, I put on these shades. And so what these are they block blue light, but they also make it a little darker. So then in about 3 hours, I can fall asleep. So if you could do me a favor, don't let my staff know that I paid under $10 for these. I told them they cost a lot more, but these are very inexpensive. And they're a workaround to allow me to keep doing all this stuff, watch TV, use a computer, whichever. Are they perfect? No. Do I get made fun of? Yes. But there is a singer, Bono, you might know him from YouTube, that actually has been using it for glaucoma. So I'm encouraging people if they have problems sleeping to think about protecting their eyes during the day from all the stimulation, and then after sunset, basically protect your eyes with the darkness. And sports teams are doing this. University of Tennessee is actually handing out these to all their players so that as soon as the sun goes down, they wear those. They can keep doing their electronics, study, whichever, but they are protected, and then they track them with a cell phone, and so they can know how they're sleeping. And so sleep, like my little handout I gave you, is the same status as how you eat and how you exercise. So one of the things we also did was we actually went, when I was young, 14, we rode from Huntington Beach to Big Bear Lake on bikes. We just did it. And we did it without helmets. Back in those days, you could just ride without a helmet. We don't let our kids ride around without a helmet. So my thought is that we protect our kids from that. We also protect our kids when they just watch the eclipse. But we still let them use their technology without anything. And so our research at the University of California, Riverside, is along this line. I am very excited to get this word out. A lot of this is new information for you guys. I mean, it's for other people it's new. And actually, in Latin, doctor means to teach, so that's why I'm doing this, to try to get from you, well, how can I spread this word a little bit better? Because what I'm trying to do is get people off of the medicine. And I'm not saying I'm not anti-medicine, I'll prescribe medicines if you need it, but this is a relatively simple fix. If I can get you to go out 20 minutes in the morning and wear goofy glasses, either while you're on computers or afterwards, it's a pretty nice fix. So, in summary, I truly believe light is medicine. Both it can harm or it can be good, just like any medicine, so you have to kind of respect it. I do like the irony of Edison, who invented the light bulb. He's famous for saying the doctor of the future will give no medicine, but encouraged the patient to understand nutrition, activity, that kind of thing. And so, in summary, try to, what I call Goldilocks your light environment. Try to get some sunlight in the morning. We're going to be talking about maybe helping you guys to get outside for a little bit of morning light, and then protecting your eyes after sunset so that you can sort of naturally let your melatonin kick in. And so I'll leave you with our vineyard. Here's our vineyard now at sunrise, hoping that you eat well, you move well, and you sleep well, now that you know that a good night's sleep actually starts in the morning. Thank you. Questions you were hand up with first.
You talk about going outside in the morning. But for me, I need my sunglasses on because of the glare.
Okay.
And so,
Yeah.
how much do you?
Yeah, so I think that the reason, there's a lot, I mean, it's not the thing I would do right away because you're not used to it. But I think if you slowly got to do it, the reason the problem with the sunglasses is that your eyes never see that bright. So my opinion started really slow, for a minute or two, just to, it's not going to hurt you to do 1 or 2 minutes of just even putting your sunglasses down a little bit just to get a little bit of light. And again, don't look at the sun, look like over here, just some sort of sun morning. The more light you get during the day, the more melatonin you'll make and the better you'll be able to sleep that night. So I encourage you to start really low, go slow, but this is the way to do it, because when you wear sunglasses, and that's part of the problem, if you're not having problems sleeping, you can still do it. But if you're having problems sleeping, try to improve your circadian biology. In fact, the winners this week of the Nobel Prize in Medicine was all about this, was circadian biology, understanding that we are biologically tied to our light-dark cycle. We've thought that it's okay to fool Mother Nature, those butter commercials, I've been here a month. But it's not. So for a lot of my patients, they're in a circadian mismatch, and I'm just starting to introduce this concept to them of slowly getting sunlight, even if you just crack the window and you shut off the indoor lights a couple of times in the morning, just to get that flood of that full spectrum light will help you.
So how much would be in the full offset because you have sunglasses?
Again, yeah, sunglasses, I mean, and I'm not saying to do this, but I can see as it goes on, there are some thinkers like less sunglasses, more night glasses. So I'll be frank with you, I only wear sunglasses if I'm really out in the sun a long time. Most of the time I drive around with my windows cracked, because I live in indoor distance. I live in what I call the neon tan, that's what it's called. So I crack my window, I try to get sort of as much light. I mean, I'm not looking at the sun, but I'm trying to get as much sunlight as I can into my eyes so that I can sleep well at night. So start to play around with it. I mean, at the very least, we like fresh air. It's nice to go outside. You don't have to be in the sunlight. You just have to see sunlight. And I'm not sure which way you see it. Is that way?
Yeah.
So it might be that you go sit out in the front and you just sit, and if you guys like coffee, just sit and have your cup of coffee, just looking out at the nice golf course and breathe and pray for a Charger victory that everyone wants this year. May not happen. Don't get depressed. And then see how you do with sleeping. But what we're looking at doing maybe is introducing these glasses, and that's why I wanted to just present it to you guys, if it's something that might be appealing. Because there are a lot of people that are on sleeping pills. And if I could give you an option so you can at least use less sleeping pills, or ideally no sleeping pills, I think it's worth the effort, because this is how our body's made. You got a question?
I was actually about the sunglasses.
Okay.
Going out first thing in the morning and having the sunglasses on.
Yeah, so you might think about delaying putting your sunglasses on, for a minute or two. I just think this is stuff that's going to be, I think it's going to be more and more written on it. As I said, especially now that they won the Nobel Prize, I'll be talking more about. I think the more we as humans can be tied what's called quantum mechanically to the nature, we do well. And the big three I look at is light, actually water. That's why I have sort of water that's non-fluorinated. And then, because actually all of this stuff in here, your phones, they're bidirectional microwaves. And so you see what happens to leftovers put in a microwave. Unless you wrap it in wet paper towels, it becomes like shoe leather. So most of the patients I see, and again, if you have just heart failure, you have to be really careful about your water. That's why it's good to measure, and I'm really excited about precision medicine when we measure. But I measure a lot of people and they're dehydrated. Well, I don't go outside. Well, if you're indoors, you could actually be more dehydrated because of your technology. And we look at our phone 150 times a day. It's always kind of with us. So to me, it's all about you as a patient and what do you need. And if you're having too much water, if you're overloaded, well, don't drink that much. But if you're under, I should give you some water. And that's why I'm like, if you're not happy, you're not healthy, let's look at why. And then the last thing, so it's light, water, and then magnetism, which is really all these electronics. We think there's no biological toll from Wi-Fi or the internet or electronics. And I'm not like, Chicken Little where the sky's falling. I'm just, let's have a healthy respect for it. And if you're having problems, our brains are neurologic and electrical. These are electrical. They kind of, remember the old days, those of you with gray hair, remember when we had antennas and you had to stand a certain way just to get the right frequency. So I'm excited that we're at least starting to appreciate that, and we're getting away from chemicals and medicine and more into nutrition, exercise, and sleep. So that's what I always start with is, can I get you so that you can balance your life on the fundamentals, and then just sort of with some precision, almost like when you're flying to Hawaii, you just micromanage till you get there. But to me, that's an exciting way of medicine. We call that lifestyle medicine. Yes.
This early morning, before 9 o'clock, 20 minutes, does that accumulate over a period of time? We build more melatonin?
Yes and no, because you do need it every day. Otherwise, the whole thing is your eyes need to know when to make melatonin and when to release melatonin. And it's just like if you travel somewhere else, it needs it every day. That's just how that's how our brain is set. There's something called the supracosmatic nucleus. There's actually an eye clock. And so I think it's very important. If you miss noonday, if you miss morning, you can't get it back. So, so it's kind of exciting for people because we can do these little, what's called wearables. We can see how your sleep is. And I have an app where I can follow my patients remotely to see how they're sleeping. And to me, it's all about customized precision medicine. Like, well, it looks like you didn't sleep well. What happened? And that kind of stuff. So I think in the future, we're going to be able to monitor folks remotely. It's not Big Brother. We're not going to do it if you don't want us to. But especially, I don't, how hard it is to get in to see the doctor, but I can watch you. Okay, let's do this. Try it. See how you're doing. See what it is. And we just kind of try to science the heck out of it. Like, how can I get you to have good sleep? Is there a way I can do that? And it's that combination of good light, protect you from technology light. Obviously, it's better if you exercise. Exercise helps your brain. It gets you naturally tired. Don't watch big, scary, exciting movies right before you go to sleep. Like, you won't sleep well. So it's kind of neat that we've been able to essentially come up with, we call it biohacking. We're basically coming up with a way, how can I get you basically world-class sleep? And if I can get you to sleep, you make so many chemicals when you sleep. So essentially, your body is a pharmacy. You make everything. You make Valium. You make Norco. You make every medicine you need. Your body will make if you give it a chance, if you give it the right environment, the right food, and then it's fun. So I'm real big on less supplements, more sun. That the sun is the supplement. And in fact, we sort of kid when we were in med school that we joked that the United States, especially California, has the most expensive urine in the world because we pee out all these supplements we take. We spend over $41 billion on trying to get a good night's sleep. And so to me, it's like, well, let's start at the basics. Let's try to balance your life. I'm not saying get a sunburn, but maybe get a little bit of fresh air and sunshine. It's what your grandparents told you to do. And then protect your eyes from our technology that has evolved quicker than our biology. Our biology takes a while, but iPhone 8 just came out. There's a lot of technology coming out. So to me, it's at least there are some other technologies that can help us, like talk to your optometrist whenever you're going to get new glasses. Think about getting the blue blocking. And in fact, the cause of cataracts is too much blue light. That's why I'm saying cataract. And in fact, the new lenses that they put in since 2009 block 50% of blue light. So the optometrists know this. It's just not getting out there. That's why I'm doing these sorts of things. Question? Yes.
Well, I didn't know how long going to sleep when I was in there, of course. But I don't wear sunglasses, but I always wear a hat during the sunlight. So that will be okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
So just make sure you get some sunlight in the morning. Again, just like think about like a little baby. How do you get a baby to sleep? Well, you really work on their life environment. So we're no different than a baby. In fact, I think we have to think about it. So like sleep is really important. We always like, I'll just sleep whenever. If you get good sleep, it amazingly helps your brain. And this whole thought about Alzheimer's, we haven't had a new Alzheimer's drug since 2003 because Alzheimer's is essentially 36 different holes in your roof. You give one medicine, it does help plug up one of the 36 holes, but you sure don't feel it because the rain's coming down. And so for Alzheimer's, it starts with good sleep. If you can't get good sleep, it's really hard to do a lot. But in terms of improving your brain, sleep is really, really good. And then you just layer on all these other things. But I think for each individual, and that's what I'm excited as a family doctor, this is why I like medicine, is each person is different. So what are you doing? What have you done? But if I can get you lean, fit, and flexible, that way you can live a long and happy life. And again, if you can get good sleep on very minimal medicines, that helps. And then as you go along, you just kind of pick off the problem and everybody's on a journey. And my actual sort of goal for every patient I see is to make them younger each year because they usually come to me a little bit broken in a sense. And I can fix stuff just like you might, not to say you're not like a car, but essentially, say those rod runs, you see those people cherry out their cars. Well, that doesn't just happen. It's a little bit of inspiration, a lot of perspiration. So I've got to work hard to find out what you need. It's participatory, And we also even do predictive genetic stuff to look at. So a lot of fun stuff in terms of the ability to improve people's lives, and that's really what I'm all about. Listen.
What year did they start putting the lenses?
My understanding was, what I was quoted was 2009. So you can ask your optometrist or ophthalmologist if you had lens implants if they block blue light. And now, more and more, some of the latest glasses just block, there's like just a small frequency, like 260, don't quote me on that because I'm not quite sure, but it's around that, 460 nanometer wavelength that the glasses, because there are, see, in the morning, you want blue light in the morning, that's what I want you to get, because that tells your brain to make melatonin. But that same blue unblocked at night keeps you awake. So that's why we're trying to come up with lenses that only block some of the bad, but you have the good. And I think this is going to be an evolving area of research and kind of be looking at. Yes.
Is drinking some alkaline water really beneficial?
That, I'll be frank, I don't know that much about the alkaline water because what I controversy. My big deal and what Jack Cruz is big on is to not have fluoride in your water because it blocks. So we actually absorb some of the energy from the sun as long as there's not fluoride in the water. The alkaline water can be changed based on also what you eat. Because food can change the alkaline pH. So I think it's part of the process, but I'll be frank, I haven't really looked into that much yet.
How about the Mediterranean diet versus paleo?
Good question. I'm actually taking a group of patients to where they invented the Mediterranean diet next week. So there's a book out called the Biohacking Protocol, which is where people live the longest and they invented the Mediterranean diet. So the Mediterranean diet, when you really look at it, is exactly what I talked about. A low carb, healthy fat diet. Paleo is when you do a low carb with high protein. So healthy fat diet. So it's paleo, between paleo and say the high fat Mediterranean diet has to do with how much protein you get. So you have to understand, if you exercise a lot, like those guys that do CrossFit and they do a lot of exercise, they can actually get more protein because they can put it into practice. The challenge was, say, you or I, depending on how much you exercise, if you don't exercise a lot and you eat a lot of protein, the protein actually switches to carbohydrate. It's a process called gluconeogenesis. That's why I remember the Atkins back in the 2000s. Initially it was great, but this didn't work because low carb, high protein doesn't work because the protein becomes carbohydrate. So what I'm advocating for most of us mere mortals, low carb, low protein, healthy fat diet. And that seems to be really good. So, and if you really want to go all in, it's low carb pescatarian, a lot of fish because it's DHA for your brain, with intermittent fasting. So most days I only have dinner. I'm not saying to do that. It's just Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, all recommend fasting. So I think all of us should think about what we eat, what we don't eat, and when we eat. And this is where it gets fun because then you can play around with it. And the food's unbelievably good. It's all rich food, but the Mediterranean diet is a low carb, healthy fat diet. This one.
You mentioned this diet where you only eat dinner. I've heard about this like a lot lately. It just seems you must have lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, well, the couple of things, they call it the warrior diet because that's how the Greek, Romans, and Spartans did. But the bottom line is, I think timing is going to become just as important as content. That when we eat is important, and you have to remember that we essentially are hybrid cars. Not to keep using the car analogy, but you can run off of carbohydrates, which are like starchy things, bread, rice, pasta, things, and cookies. But even fruits and vegetables are carb. Or we can run off of healthy fats, and the healthy fats are coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil, and butter. So that's what we run off. Protein isn't an energy source, as I said, it'll switch to carbohydrates. So if, and I use the analogy of a fire, if you're having a fire with newspaper, which is carbohydrates, and we've all done that, we're all fighting on this. Like you like to throw the newspaper in the fire, and it burns, but it goes out quick. So you got to keep putting on. So like the days I've run 6 marathons, and those days when we did carb loading, you'd have to eat early and often and frequently. So you would eat about every 2 hours, you'd have to eat. So that's if you're on a carbohydrate diet. But we were running 100 miles a week, and that works okay. But once you're burning the logs, once you're burning the fat, you don't have to eat that often. And that's just how we're designed. So again, I like to give people options. What do you want to do? What do you want to eat? How's your activity? How's your sleep? And let's figure it out. But for the majority of people who live kind of somewhat sedentary lives, where they get maybe an hour of cardio a day, and they have a lot of chances of metabolic disease, like heart disease, cancer, even like strokes, diabetes. I mean, what's diabetes? We don't do well with carbohydrates. Well, you're like someone who's allergic to bees. Stay away from bees. Like if you don't do well with carbohydrates, don't eat carbohydrates. We have another fuel source. But this is what the French have been doing for years. All of Sweden switched to this. It actually improved your cardiac profile. I mean, I got a stent when I was 45, eating a high carb diet, like they told me. That's why I'm kind of passionate about this thing. They lied to me. And so it turns out, when you really look at the Mediterranean diet, they love their olive oil. And they also do nice things like they take a long time to eat that. So it's more, and this is the key word, is lifestyle. Not just diet, but it's what you do with that diet. Most of the time in the Mediterranean diet, they have a little espresso, and they'll go sardine fishing, they'll do their intermittent fasting, and then they'll maybe have a siesta during the day. And people go, well, are naps good for sleep? Well, if you work a lot, you deserve a nap. If you don't, and you sleep poorly at night, don't nap during the day. So that's what's kind of fun. So that's the difference. Does that answer your question? It has to do with the protein concept. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, now, when you're having trouble sleeping at night, is it more because you're more elderly, so you're not moving a lot? The reason why I asked this, for the last 6 months, my mom hasn't been able to sleep well because she gets up to the party. So then during the day, which I'm doing, she's like,
right. Yeah, so she's doing that sundown. So you probably all heard, but basically, is it in terms of as you get older, is that it's at a problem? And as we get older, we probably don't need as much sleep. Very few of us get 12 hours, we're otherwise pretty healthy. But in general, that is the challenge. They get sleepy during the day and then they're awake at night. And usually it has to do, we found, with their light environment. Now, this is their research that we're doing, but really try to get it as bright as you can. It's hard to fall asleep when everything is bright. So try to keep it bright. I'm not saying just go outside, but like open up the shades, crack open the windows so she gets light. And then you may want to get her, if she watches a lot of TV or other things, maybe get her glasses that block the blue light during the day, and especially at night, use darker glasses. Again, my thought is I don't want to make it so dark that she trips and falls, but just try to use the light, and that seems to work well. Same with hydration. If you're someone who feeds a lot at night, well, maybe you stop drinking at a certain time so you don't feed. You just play around with all of that. But to me, I don't think we're maximizing the use of that. We're going quickly to a pill. It's easier for us doctors to write a prescription than to kind of look at your lifestyle. But that's what we're excited about. And we're hoping to get some of the online videos that we can teach people that sort of thing. This talk I just gave at TEDx, which is a type of online teaching. And we're going to be trying to do more of this sort of thing. So like if you have friends who didn't want to hear that, they want to hear about it, we can do that. We actually, with the students, have started a website called iesleep.org. So I'm trying to dump all the sleep resources in one place so that depending on what you have, you can kind of look at that. Now, obviously, if you're having problems with breathing at night and you have sleep apnea, then you need to see one of the pulmonary people. But it's a very small amount of people that have that. A lot of people basically, they have a lot of anxiety, they have depression, they have other things that are keeping them from sleeping, and they've been on like melatonin so much that their body won't make melatonin. So it is a way to switch over your bioidentical hormones so that you get your body to do what it's supposed to do, which is make the appropriate thing, release it at the right time, and then you're in balance.
it's kind of like changing your lifestyle.
Exactly, it's lifestyle medicine. So that's what we're looking at, is how's your nutrition, how's your activity, how's your sleep, and part of the sleep is how's your environment of light, water, and magnetism. So those are the things that kind of checklist through, figure out where you're at, and then go from there. And I can't promise you're going to be perfect, but you're going to be better, and the goal is for us to be a team. That essentially, you're the player, I'm the coach, using that sports medicine model. I'll kind of give you suggestions because I had 2 people going to the Hall of Fame this year. Like I know how to get people to do really well. Or they did all around, but I'm just saying this is my only sliver of talent is to help you get through all the different science because there's conflicting stuff. people say, do this, do that, that kind of stuff. So I'm really of the opinion that you need to get a good healthcare provider, either a nurse practitioner, nurse assistant, or a physician, that really can at least assist you so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do everything all okay. You know, do this, maybe try that. And so I'm very excited that we, especially in family medicine, some functional medicine people, are looking at these sorts of things. My big deal is I don't like to put people on, like switch them off of medicines and put them on supplements. That doesn't seem really appropriate to me. I'd like you to see how your body can make the right chemicals if we get them in the balance. And that's really that sports medicine paradigm, which is really an active lifestyle. We want everyone to have adventure, live a good life on very minimal medicine, be safe, and enjoy it as opposed to enjoy life. So enjoy life, not enjoy life.
Okay.
And then the last thing I always like to quote Satchel Paige, who Satchel Paige was a baseball player that he didn't know how old he was because he was adopted, and he pitched for a real long time. And someone asked him, how old are you, Satchel Paige? And he said, I don't know, because how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? And that's really, it's not the calendar, it's your physiology. So stay lean, fit, flexible. If we can be a resource, let us know. This is the kind of stuff we're excited about. If you have a lot of talks like this, you want other ones, I'm happy to come back. So thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
Can you tell me the website that you said that you
Yeah,
have to
iesleep.org.
I need your
I like Inland Empire.
That's for everybody. That's a sleep resource. So that's our research project that we're doing. It has videos on there. It has classes. That's our
It's
goal.
just a sign-in
All of
sheet so
this
we know
is
who's
sleep
here.
research in one. So like every month.
Yeah, because I have things that when I sleep, my little 8 or 9 hours, I'm
Your kids just say what
You think you should have a microphone?
Sorry. Oh, so a microphone?
Well, this year we just let them go. So, because they're only 2 years. At 3 years, we'll actually sell them online. They'll give me some box. So our variety of Cabernet sauce.
What I do is just play a lot of work. I smash the grapes, save the juice, freeze it, and then when I want to drink it, I add the orange juice. I don't process it anyway.
Yeah, no, there's a lot about, we're very excited to see my little hive. We're really good at killing gophers and weeds. So we're buying a double insulated outbox. So I'm hoping, I got 56 gophers last year. I guess we get like 1,500.
Oh, no. Well, that was that microphone.
Yeah. That's it, real good. We have a ton of coyote.
Yeah, it's just the way, I didn't want him to go to waste.
Right.
A lot of work that is all the seeds.
Right, yeah, so we're just still kind of getting into it.
The seminar is going to be available.
There's some business cards over there. If you
Oh,
want to
okay.
grab.
Maybe if you listen to it with your phones or something, you can have your server. So, visit our Facebook page and it is on there, and then you can press pause or rewind if you didn't catch something.
Thank you.
Can go, okay? Well, let me go see that. You're welcome.
Talk to you later.
Question.
Here's a veteran flyer too that we brought myself. Here you are. It's a veteran safe celebration.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
I think that's okay. It's just, how
And
we
the
do it.
seminar is going to be available on our Facebook page, so if you know anyone that would benefit from watching it that didn't get to, just have them visit our Facebook page, okay?
Use it for a little bit.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much.
Regular, maybe try some of these things that we talked about. You get outside.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Right. So the two things I would encourage you is try to get that morning, get the morning market, and then